Hello, we are Chris Lee and Chase Robinson at Southeastern 16 here to give three keys for Texas A&M and its game against McNeese State this week. You can catch that 11:45 Central on the SEC Network. Of course, A&M will be expected to be a big favorite. We'll give you three things we're watching for in this one. But first, Chase, tell folks who sponsors our content, please.
Yeah, BetOnline sponsors our content, and they are the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games. Think you know your stuff? Get in on our $200,000 mega contest and pick 5 games against the spread every week for your chance at weekly prizes and a share of $200,000. When the game's over, you can go to the online casino, get in on a game of blackjack or poker, or one of the over 150 slots games. Head over to the website today to get in on the action. Bet online, the game starts here.
Well, let's start with the first key. We were comparing notes before the podcast, and I think both of us had one that anybody can guess in their sleep, but I'll let you go with that one, Chase.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was probably the most obvious thing that anybody saw watching the game, and that's Connor Weigman needs to clean up his play a little bit. He had 100 yards and 2 interceptions last week in the loss to Notre Dame. And a little bit of an underwhelming performance on a big stage and a big game like that. He's going to have a lot of those this year on a big stage and a big game. He's got to be able to clean up play. I mean, he can't be turning the ball over, throwing 2 interceptions. And look, things are inevitable. Mistakes are going to happen. We know that. But I think it would be most beneficial to him to clean up his play some and be the leader that Texas A&M really needs. They need a good quarterback, a good leader on the field. He is a good quarterback. We've seen him. Of course, he was out with the foot injury. He's back, as we were told last week. He's close to 100%, and is in. Is feeling good, but he struggled at times Saturday night. And I think if he cleans up his play, he's going to be the quarterback we know that he can be, and that's what Texas A&M really needs.
Yeah, and we both liked him coming into this game. We were looking forward to seeing what it looked like with him healthy, but that offense was one of the bigger disappointments in the league in week one. And if you're Connor Weigman, you don't want to end up being a guy where the talk during the week on radio and Twitter and everything is about Jalen Henderson and Marcel Reed, 2 guys who did play a year ago. You want to kind of reassert yourself as the guy with authority going into a road trip to Gainesville next week with a shot to get a win. So the other thing that I wanted to say, you mentioned the big stage. And I think we were looking at the Notre Dame game last week. We said, all right, it's on the big stage. You got Mike Elko's debut. You got it at night. Televised game. And where did opportunity seem to present itself before the game when Notre Dame had injuries on the offensive line after replacing some key guys? And we said, hey, man, this lines up perfectly. We both picked A&M. We said we think that defensive line with Scorton and Shamar Turner and some of those guys, it felt like a perfect scenario for A&M to just kind of wreak havoc in the backfield, force some turnovers, those kind of things. How many sacks did A&M get, Chase? It got 1.
Yeah,
that's at least 1 or 2 fewer than I was expecting. And I don't think that you go out and you pronounce yourself right after a game against McNeese State, no matter what happens. But if we go through this and there's maybe 1 or 2 sacks, I don't know how frequently they'll try to throw the ball. I think maybe at that point you go, hey, seems like this team's leaving a little meat on the bone. I want to see a little bit more of what we were expecting last week against Notre Dame in terms of pass rush.
Right. Yeah, I think that's got to be the case this week for Texas A&M. And yeah, we talked about it a lot even last week leading up to that game when we were doing our predictions and everything and our keys to last week. We thought this was going to be a pretty dominant defensive line, and we just didn't see that and when they had an opportunity to. And so I think that's going to be huge, not only this week, but moving forward for Texas A&M is to solidify yourself as a team with this defensive line, because they can.
Yeah.
Like they're strong, they're good. You look at the roster on paper, they look really good. And so, I think we do need to see much more dominance out of the defensive line. And kind of my third key, sticking with the defense, Chris, is improve the run defense. And this kind of goes along with what we were just talking about, but Notre Dame had 198 yards rushing on Texas A&M. McNeese State runs the ball a lot. I'm not saying these are the same type team. They're not. Notre Dame is a very good team, potential playoff team. And then, McNeese State is not on that level, but they do run the ball a lot. And that's kind of the name of their game. And so this is a week where you can work on that run defense. But I think looking at the rest of the SEC from what we saw this week, there's a lot of teams who are really strong running teams, and Texas A&M has got to be ready for that. So I think not only dominating on the defensive line, but they've got to improve that run defense as well.
Well, one place they got hurt last week was Riley Leonard running. I think he ran for 62 yards. And they will, based on last week, McNeese will split carries between a couple of quarterbacks, one of whom is Clifton McDowell, who is 1 for 4 passing, but he ran it 10 times for, 65 yards and a couple of scores. Running quarterbacks are kind of a nightmare to prepare for. You got several of them in this league this year. So I think that's probably a good opportunity, Chase, for a tune-up. I mean, let's look down the schedule. You could see DJ Lagway next week. Arkansas has got Talon Green who can run. Looking further down the schedule, South Carolina has got a quarterback. If Lenore Sellers is still the guy who you think will run a lot. I don't know if they'll do much at Auburn and Texas, but you do have the point I'm making. You have some mobile quarterbacks on your schedule. You had a little bit of an issue with it last week, and now if McDowell plays a good bit, an opportunity to face those situations and get tuned up against the guys that are better when the stakes are bigger down the line.
Yeah, and this is a great week, like you said, to do that, to improve on that, to realize, you need some work here and to do that. So I think this week definitely could be a week that you can work on all those things that we just talked about in these keys.
Well, we'll continue working here at Southeastern 16. We cover baseball, football, and basketball year-round, literally year-round. We are doing at least one baseball and basketball show a week in the off-season. We will have it covered wall-to-wall when basketball starts. We've been doing previews. We did an interview with John Rothstein this week. We're doing all kinds of stuff. Best way to get that, hit that subscribe button. That is free. Hit the like button. That also is free. That helps us. Enable your notifications. That's free. That helps you know when we're doing videos. And by the way, we'll do a Saturday night recap show along with tons of content next week. And we reach millions of people a year. So caroline.smith at southeastern14.com if you're interested in advertising. Thanks for watching us here at Southeastern 16. He is Chase Robinson. I'm Chris Lee. We are Southeastern 16 presented by Bet Online.